"I can't bring you to Christmas, my ex is coming and it'll be drama," my GF said after I got her folks gifts and planned to wed. He texted, "Don't come." So I left. Months later, she's. Picture this, you're just days away from proposing to the woman you love, a ring practically burning a hole in your pocket, when she looks you in the eye and tells you, you can't come to Christmas dinner. Why? Because her coworker, Caleb, would be there, and it would be awkward. Our apartment, usually a haven of quiet comfort, had lately felt thick with unspoken tension. That specific December evening, the chill outside seemed to seep into every corner, foreshadowing the storm that was about to break. I was 28, a project manager at a tech company, owned my apartment, and drove a Camaro I'd saved 3 years for. I was the guy who planned everything, showed up early, remembered birthdays. My mom always said, if you're going to do something, do it right or don't do it at all. And for 2 years, I thought I was doing us right. When I met Savannah, it felt like hitting the jackpot. Beautiful, confident, she loved trying new restaurants and, crucially, laughed at all my jokes. We moved in together after 14 months, and I genuinely believed this was it, the person I'd build a life with. Her parents adored me, and my family loved her. Everything felt utterly, perfectly right. Then October hit, and things started to subtly shift. She spent more time glued to her phone, a private smile playing on her lips as she'd text, offering no explanations. She'd come home later from office happy hours, her answers to my questions becoming short, distracted echoes instead of real conversations. The affection, the warmth we shared, it all started to cool. Less kissing, fewer cuddles during movies. When I tried to talk about it, she'd just brush me off, blaming work stress. And like an idiot, I backed off. I didn't want to be that paranoid boyfriend, suffocating her. Early November, she started mentioning this new guy at her company, Caleb. At first, it was casual, something funny he said, a lunch spot he recommended. Harmless, right? But then the mentions grew more frequent, more enthusiastic. Caleb this, Caleb that. Caleb's so smart, so funny. Every time his name came up, a cold knot twisted in my stomach, but I swallowed it down. I refused to be the jealous guy who couldn't handle his girlfriend having male friends. That was red flag number 1, screaming directly at me, and I just ignored it. By mid-November, our plans started unraveling. Movie nights turned into Savannah scrolling her phone while I watched TV alone. The anniversary dinner I'd meticulously planned got postponed because of some unmissable work thing. I bought her a beautiful necklace for it, and she barely glanced at it, a quick "it's nice" before she put it away without even trying it on. I told myself she was going through a rough patch, that I just needed to be supportive, patient. December rolled around, and I was deep into proposal mode. The ring had been bought back in September, white gold with a princess cut diamond. I'd talked to her parents in October, her dad had even teared up, giving me his blessing, telling me I was the son he'd always wanted. I'd coordinated with my brother, booked a private room at our first date restaurant, hired a photographer, and written out every word I planned to say. The plan was Christmas Eve dinner, followed by a surprise family gathering for the proposal. I was so excited, I could barely sleep. The gifts were my final, personal touch. I always paid attention. Her dad wanted a nice journal for his morning writing, so I found a leather-bound one with his initials embossed. Her mom collected vintage cookbooks, and I tracked down 3 rare ones from the 50s. Her sister, graduating design school, was getting a professional-grade sketch set. For Savannah, beyond the necklace, I had a weekend trip planned to this mountain cabin she'd shown me on Instagram months ago. Everything wrapped, ready, sitting in my closet like a collection of beautifully packaged time bombs, ticking down to my own spectacular stupidity. December 21st. 3 days before Christmas Eve. Savannah came home around 8 p.m., later than usual, with this weird, nervous energy. I was making her favorite, pasta carbonara, and asked how her day was. She poured herself a glass of wine, drank half in one gulp, and then said, "We need to talk." My stomach dropped, the bottom falling out of my world, but I calmly turned off the stove and sat down. She wouldn't meet my eyes, just spun her wine glass in slow circles. Finally, she brought up Christmas Eve dinner, and I nodded, assuming she wanted to adjust the time. Instead, she said, "I don't think you should come." I just stared, convinced I'd misheard her. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She got defensive immediately. She said Caleb was going to be there, and it would be awkward if I came too. It felt like I'd been punched. Caleb. The coworker she wouldn't shut up about. He was going to my girlfriend's family Christmas, and I wasn't. "Why is your coworker invited to family Christmas?" I demanded, the calm facade beginning to crack. She said he'd been through a bad breakup, and her mom felt sorry for him. But she was choosing him over me, her boyfriend of 2 years, the guy who'd bought thoughtful, personalized gifts for her entire family. I asked her point blank if something was going on with Caleb. She rolled her eyes, insisted they were just friends, but her voice had that defensive, tight edge I'd started to recognize. Then she dropped the real bomb. She said she was kind of doing me a favor. A favor? I asked what the hell she meant. That's when she explained she knew I'd been acting weird lately and had a feeling I might be planning to propose. She didn't want to reject me in front of her whole family at Christmas, so it was better if I just didn't come. The casual cruelty of it. The chilling assumption that she already knew her answer was no. The fact that she cared more about her own potential embarrassment than about shattering my world, it all hit me at once. Something inside me went cold. A terrifying, silent calm, the kind you feel when you're too angry to even yell. I stood up. Didn't say a word. Walked to the bedroom, grabbed the bag of meticulously wrapped gifts from my closet, and brought them back. I set them gently on the coffee table. "Take them back to your family," I said, my voice eerily flat. "Since I won't be there." She looked genuinely confused, started to say something, but I held up my hand. "Pack your stuff," I said, the words cutting through the air. "And get out." She tried to argue, claiming I was overreacting. "It's just one dinner," she cried, as if this was about a missed meal and not about her choosing another man over me, then acting like she was doing me a favor. I told her she had exactly 1 hour to pack her essentials and could arrange to get the rest later with a friend present. The ring box was burning a hole in my pocket, but I didn't say a single word about it. She tried 3 more times to convince me I was making a huge mistake, that she really did love me, that she wasn't doing anything wrong. But I was done. I pulled up my phone and set a timer for 55 minutes. She left with 17 minutes to spare, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. I stood there in the sudden silence, surrounded by festive Christmas decorations and the brightly wrapped gifts for a proposal that would never, ever happen. I called my best friend, Noah, and he immediately told me to come stay at his place. I grabbed some clothes and, crucially, the gifts. I wasn't about to let her take those after what she'd pulled. Christmas Eve came, and I spent it playing video games and drinking beer at Noah's, instead of proposing to the woman I thought I'd marry. My phone was blowing up with texts from Savannah, begging to talk, saying she'd made a mistake, but I didn't respond. What was there to say? Christmas morning, I got a text from her dad. He said they'd missed me, that Savannah had told them we'd had a fight but wouldn't say what about. He added that whatever happened, I'd always be family to them. Her mom texted the same thing. The texts made me feel even worse, because I genuinely loved her family, and now I'd lost them too. I texted both back, thanking them and explaining, factually, no trash talk, that Savannah had uninvited me because she wanted to bring someone else, a coworker named Caleb, and had admitted she would reject my proposal. Her dad's response was just, "I'm so sorry. She's made a terrible mistake." Her mom didn't respond at all. I could only imagine the conversation happening in their house. Savannah's texts grew more desperate after Christmas. Multiple messages a day, saying she'd ended things with Caleb, that it was never serious, that she loved me and wanted to fix things. But even if I believed she'd ended it with him, which I didn't, the damage was done. She'd show me exactly who she was and what I was worth to her. You don't uninvite your boyfriend of 2 years to Christmas. You don't choose a coworker over your partner. You don't tell someone you'd reject their proposal and then expect to just walk it back. So, I kept ignoring her. I spent the rest of the holiday week at Noah's, trying not to think about the ring in my sock drawer or the future that had disintegrated in one brutal conversation. The texts didn't stop after New Year's. They got worse, more frequent, more unhinged. Savannah was calling me at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, letting it ring until voicemail, then calling again immediately. I'd silenced her number, but the notifications still piled up. Dozens of missed calls and messages, cycling from apologetic to angry to sobbing to threatening, and back again. Noah told me to block her, but I wanted documentation, just in case. Then she started showing up. My neighbor mentioned seeing her car across the street at 6 a.m. Then I saw her at my coffee shop on Saturday, sitting in the corner, pretending to read but watching me the whole time. Then outside my gym, waiting by my car. Every time, I just turned around and walked away, without a word. Wouldn't engage. Wouldn't give her any reaction. It drove her absolutely insane, which, honestly, gave me a perverse satisfaction after what she'd put me through. Her friends started a coordinated guilt campaign. Chloe sent this long message about how Savannah was crying every day, couldn't eat or sleep, and how I needed to give her closure. Taylor called me directly and spent 20 minutes explaining how everyone deserves a second chance, how I was being cruel. I told Taylor that Savannah had already gotten her second chance when I forgave those red flags. Her third when I didn't dump her the first time Caleb's name came up. Her fourth when she canceled our plans. I told her she'd burn through all her chances when she uninvited me to Christmas. Taylor didn't have much to say after that. Meanwhile, I was doing better than I'd been in months. Turns out, getting dumped right before your proposal either destroys you or motivates you. I chose motivated. I signed up for a photography course I'd been putting off for years, something Savannah thought was a waste of money. Turns out, I was pretty good at it, had an eye for composition. I started spending weekends walking around the city, taking pictures, instead of watching Savannah scroll her phone. I picked up extra projects at work and got noticed by upper management for a campaign that brought in a major client. My boss pulled me aside in late January and told me they were starting the process for a senior position, and I was their top candidate. I also bought a project bike, an old Harley that needed restoration. Working on it in Noah's garage on weekends was therapeutic, taking something broken and making it whole again. Noah joked I was using the bike as a metaphor for my own life. And he wasn't wrong. I started hitting the gym more consistently, too. Not for revenge body purposes, but because I needed to burn off energy in a productive way. Having goals that had nothing to do with relationships helped. Early February, I met Maya. She was in my photography class, always early, always prepared, always asking intelligent questions. We got paired for a project about urban landscapes and spent a Saturday walking around downtown, taking photos and just talking. She was 27, worked as an architect, and had this calm confidence that was the complete opposite of Savannah's desperate need for constant validation. She liked planning, appreciated punctuality, valued consistency and honesty. We exchanged numbers for the project, started texting, and eventually she asked if I wanted to grab dinner after class. I was hesitant, it had only been 6 weeks since the Christmas disaster. But Noah convinced me to go. Having dinner doesn't mean you're proposing marriage, he'd said. So I went. And it was easy. Comfortable. Fun in a way my relationship with Savannah hadn't been in months. Maya actually listened when I talked, asked follow-up questions, shared stories without making everything about her. She paid for her half without any weird games. When I told her I'd recently gotten out of something serious and wasn't looking for anything heavy, she simply said she'd recently gotten out of something too and was happy to just see where things went. We started hanging out more, always casual and low pressure, photography walks on Sundays, coffee before class, dinner after long workdays. She even came to Noah's garage once to see the Harley and ended up spending 3 hours helping me sand the gas tank while we listened to music. She met Noah, and he gave me this look afterward that clearly said he approved, that she was good for me. I wasn't ready to call it dating yet, but it was something good. Something that made me realize how truly unhappy I'd actually been with Savannah. Savannah somehow found out about Maya in early Ma. RCH, maybe through social media stalking or mutual friends. Suddenly, the desperate apology texts turned into accusations. She sent paragraphs about how I'd moved on so fast, how I clearly never really loved her, how I was probably cheating the whole time. The irony of her accusing me of cheating, when she emotionally checked out for another man, was not lost on me. I still didn't respond, just screenshot everything and send it to Noah, saying, "Yep, definitely made the right choice." Then came the party in late March. A mutual friend's birthday at a bar downtown. I'd RSVP'd weeks ago, before I knew Savannah would be there. I brought Maya because we'd been seeing each other for over a month, and I wanted her to meet more of my friends. We walked in, and I immediately saw Savannah. I saw her see me. I watched her face go from surprised to hurt to furious when she realized I had someone with me. I introduced Maya to people, kept my hand gently on her back, making it clear we were together without being obnoxious. Savannah spent the first hour glaring from across the bar, drinking too fast, talking too loud. I ignored her, focused on Maya and our friends. I was having a genuinely good time despite the weird energy. Then Savannah came over. Drunk and swaying, she asked if she could talk to me privately. I said no. "Whatever you have to say, you can say right here." She lost it. Started crying and yelling about how I'd thrown away 2 years like they meant nothing, how I'd replaced her so quickly, how Maya wasn't even that pretty and clearly wasn't special. Maya just stood there calmly, letting Savannah spiral. Didn't engage. Just let Savannah show everyone exactly who she really was. Our friend had to ask Savannah to leave because she was making a scene. Savannah turned on him, called him a terrible friend for taking my side, then grabbed her purse and stormed out, yelling that we'd all regret this. The bar went quiet for a minute, then conversation slowly started up again. Maya squeezed my hand and asked if I was okay, and I realized I actually was. Savannah's meltdown had just proven to everyone in that room, and especially to me, that I'd made the right call. We stayed another hour, then left. On the drive back, Maya said she'd understand if my ex being crazy was too much drama, and if I wanted to cool things off. I told her Savannah's issues were Savannah's problem, and I wasn't going to let her chase away something good. Maya smiled and said, "Okay then." But Savannah wasn't done. Not even close. The party seemed to break something in her, because after that, the stalking got serious. I started to realize this wasn't just a bitter ex being dramatic, this was someone genuinely unstable who wasn't going to stop until I made her stop. The week after the party, Savannah's behavior crossed from desperate into legitimately scary. She started showing up at my workplace, just sitting in the lobby until security asked her to leave. My coworkers noticed, and I had to have an embarrassing conversation with my boss, explaining my ex was having trouble accepting we'd broken up. He was understanding, but told me to let him know if it escalated because they took employee safety seriously. The fact that my career was now being affected made me realize how far off the rails this had gone. She created fake Instagram accounts to follow me and Maya. Multiple accounts with random names and no pictures, liking old photos from months ago in the middle of the night. Maya showed me the messages Savannah was sending from these accounts, long, rambling paragraphs about how Maya had stolen her life, how I was supposed to marry Savannah, how Maya was just a rebound. Maya handled it better than I would have. She just blocked each account and screenshot everything. She told me her older sister had dealt with a stalker ex, and the most important thing was to never engage and to keep records for potential legal action. Then the flowers started in early April. Not romantic bouquets, but funeral arrangements, left on my doorstep with cards saying things like "for what we lost" or "mourning what could have been." It was disturbing, this weird, dramatic gesture showing how completely Savannah had detached from reality. I photographed each arrangement with the cards, then threw them away, adding them to the growing evidence folder. My neighbor even asked if someone had died. No, I explained, just my ex being unhinged. Then Chloe started attacking Maya online, posting comments on her Instagram, calling her a homewrecker. She wrote fake reviews on Maya's architecture firm's page, claiming she was unprofessional, completely fabricated nonsense designed to damage her career. Maya had to contact Instagram and the review sites to get it removed, had to explain to her boss what was happening. That was the moment I decided I needed legal action. I contacted a lawyer Noah recommended, showed him the massive file of screenshots, photos, and documented incidents. He said I had more than enough for a restraining order and walked me through filing. We submitted the paperwork in mid-April with a court date set for early May. Once Savannah was served with the temporary order, she'd have to stay at least 200 feet away from me, my home, and my workplace, and violations would have actual legal consequences. Savannah was served at her workplace on a Tuesday. I know because she immediately started blowing up my phone from different numbers, friends' phones, probably burner apps, calling over and over, demanding to know how I could do this. Each call went to voicemail, and I forwarded every single one to my lawyer as evidence. She left messages cycling through crying, apologizing, anger, and threats. The same emotional pattern, but now with legal consequences hanging over her. The court hearing was May 3rd. I showed up with my lawyer, my evidence file, and Maya, who wanted to testify about the harassment. Savannah showed up late, alone, clearly unprepared. The judge reviewed everything, looked through photos and screenshots, listened to some voicemails. Savannah tried to argue she was just trying to get closure, that I was being cruel by cutting her off, that she had a right to express her feelings. The judge shut that down quickly, explaining that showing up at someone's workplace repeatedly, creating fake accounts to harass their partner, and leaving funeral flowers went way beyond seeking closure into harassment and stalking. The permanent restraining order was granted. 3 years no contact. She had to stay 200 feet away from me, my home, my workplace, and Maya. Savannah started crying in the courtroom, saying this was unfair and I was ruining her life. The judge told her she'd ruined her own life by refusing to respect boundaries and that violations meant arrest. We left, and I felt this massive weight lift, like I could finally breathe properly. I thought that would be the end. The order was clear. Consequences were serious. Surely Savannah would finally get it. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, Saturday night around 11 p.m., my apartment buzzer started ringing incessantly. I checked the camera and saw Savannah, clearly drunk, swaying and yelling into the intercom that she just needed to talk to me, that she loved me, that we were meant to be together. I immediately called the police and then Noah, who lived 15 minutes away. Noah got there first and used the intercom to tell Savannah the cops were coming and she was violating a restraining order and about to get arrested. She started screaming at him, calling him a traitor, saying he'd poisoned me against her. Police showed up 10 minutes later. I watched through my window as they talked to Savannah, as she gestured wildly, pointing at my apartment, as they eventually put cuffs on her when she refused to leave. She was arrested for violating the order, spent the night in jail, and went back to court the following week where the judge added penalties and extended the order. Even her mom, who'd been silent after I told them what happened back at Christmas, called afterward to apologize for her daughter's behavior. Her dad sounded exhausted and sad, and I almost felt bad for them, watching their daughter self-destruct. After the arrest, everything went quiet. No more texts, no more fake accounts, no more showing up places. Either jail scared her straight, or her parents convinced her to get help, or she just burned through all her energy. I didn't know, and honestly, I didn't care. I was just profoundly grateful it was finally over. Life moved forward. I got the promotion in June, the senior position my boss had been working on since winter. Maya and I moved in together in July, found a great apartment with a spare room I turned into a photography studio. The Harley restoration finished in August, and I took Maya on a weekend trip down the coast. We stopped at that mountain cabin, the one I'd originally booked for Savannah, and I realized how much better this was with someone who actually appreciated it, who was truly present. September came, and on a perfect Saturday at a park overlooking the city, I got down on one knee and asked Maya to marry me. I'd kept the ring from before, had it cleaned and stored at Noah's place. The return period had expired, and honestly, I'd forgotten about it until I knew I wanted to propose to Maya. The ring wasn't the problem. Choosing the wrong person was. Maya said yes immediately. No doubts, just pure, unadulterated joy about our future. We called our families, celebrated with Noah that night, and started planning a wedding for next summer. I never heard from Savannah again. Last I heard through mutual friends, she'd moved to another city for a fresh start, was in therapy, and had apparently accepted responsibility for everything. I hope that was true, for her sake. But mostly, I didn't think about her anymore because my life had moved so far beyond that disaster. Sometimes people ask if I regret those 2 years, or if I'm bitter about how it ended. Honestly? I'm not. Yeah, it sucked, and the stalking was terrifying. But if Savannah hadn't shown her true colors when she did, if she'd said yes to that proposal, I'd have married the wrong person and ended up divorced and miserable. Instead, I dodged a massive bullet, found someone infinitely better, and built the life I actually wanted. The ring meant for one person ended up on the hand of the right person. And that felt like the universe correcting a mistake before it was too late. Sometimes the worst things that happen end up being the best things that could have happened. You just can't see it until you're on the other side. What do you think about this story? Have you ever had a moment where a massive betrayal actually led you to something better? Let me know in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious to hear your experiences.